Hey guys, Veebat here with another V-Plays, taking a look at the XF-15C. Now, we've looked at this aircraft before when we first got it, and I've even highlighted a few battles, I think, in the past. But recently somebody asked, with the P-80 back on sale for this limited time, how does that compare with the XF-15C? I'm not sure what's prompting the question, but I'm sure there's, obvious comparison, right, between a Tier 8 American light fighter and this XF-15C is a little bit untraditional, and as you can immediately see, it has a propeller and it has a jet engine on it. So this is a combination propulsion system. What this allows for an aircraft is you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get higher overall operating speed with the jet, but you can get the acceleration right away from the propeller. At least that's how it works in the real world. In game, it just means overall you have a really good high top speed and you have really good acceleration. So you got a lot of power to spare, and in that respect it feels a lot more like a multi-role fighter would. In fact, I'd almost go so far as to say that this reminds me more of like if I had a Corsair that was a premium aircraft, just because of the way the guns work. In fact, these are identical to the cannons you find on the F2G Corsair at Tier 8. The Mark III 20mm cannons, and they're mounted in just about the same position on the wings. So you will get some benefit to marksmen because you can get those guns to get a better intersection point on the target. I would also compare this to the difference between the Tier 9 American fighters, because there are actually two Tier 9 American fighters on the traditional line. You've got the F6U, which comes off of the Corsair line, and you have the FJ1. Now the FJ1 is going to be another one of your machine gun fighters that we're used to going all the way down through the Mustangs, and the F6U is a very unique aircraft in that it's a cannon fighter for the Americans, and it has pretty good engine power and top speed, although not necessarily the highest altitude performance. But with the amount of engine power it has to spare, the thing can really get up to higher altitudes. So if you've flown both of those airplanes, you already have an accurate comparison between these two premium aircraft. Comparing them to each other I don't think is really fair, because this isn't an altitude turn fighter. This is going to be a lower altitude or medium altitude cannon fighter. Now, can I get up there and hang at higher altitude? Absolutely. I got engine power for days. But the maneuverability is actually even less so. Even less maneuverability on this than you would see on a Corsair platform. So it seems like it's doing pretty good, but that's only because of some throttle modulation, hitting the air brakes and then hammering the boost on the apex of the turn in order to make more of an ellipsoid turn opposed to a full circle. It allows you to be able to essentially get a much quicker guns around once in order to get a single turnaround opportunity. But when you make these cannons hit, you have a much quicker time to kill, I think, than you would with the machine guns, and it's a lot more forgiving for misses, because unlike the machine guns where you have to consistently be hitting the target, you can get a few good hits with this and cause some serious crippling damage with these cannons. The other benefit here is obviously both of these aircraft are going to be premium Tier 8s, and you can train up American fighter crews, and they do make a substantial amount of credits, and you'll see that in this battle here. So which one would I prefer? Well, honestly, if I had the choice between the two right from the get-go, if you were to ask me when I started the game, do you want the P-80 Shooting Star, or do you want this weird-looking airplane that you've never heard of? I go with the P-80 Shooting Star, because the P-80 Shooting Star is an aircraft I'm familiar with, and I like the way it looks, and I think it would fall in line with what I have experienced so far with the American fighter lines. But the XF-15C is a very unique aircraft and is very capable. It's hard to say which one I'd choose, but I think for ease of use, the P80 is probably a much safer bet. It's going to fall in line with what you're kind of used to if you've gone through the Mustangs, you've gotten the FJ1, you've gotten the F86 Sabre. You're going to see a lot of overlaps in the capability, and I think you won't be disappointed because you'll essentially be getting a tier 8 of what you've already been using just as a premium training platform. This, on the other hand, is going to take some getting used to, but once you do, you'll be quite pleased, I think, with its performance as well. So it's really kind of a coin flip as to which one's better at what. Now, I have killed quite a few P80s in this aircraft, but that's also bearing in mind that a lot of people are buying the P80 right now, and they haven't quite figured out how to fly them yet, so as a result, you've got people who don't know how to altitude fighter trying to do dogfights at low altitude, and I catch them unaware and cripple them and isolate and kill those targets. Like this Meteor, if he was just turning with me, I would have lost a fight, but I got my guns on early, killed him pretty quick, and that's what I do with the P80s for the most part. That T-tail can get in your view sometimes, but you get used to it, and again, the propulsion's really good. 15-second boost time is nothing to turn your nose up at, and you can see here that we're getting up to over 400 miles an hour. We're hitting nearly 470, and it likes to hang here. It can handle it very easily, and we got to this speed very, very quickly. And we only have Engine Guru 1 on this aircraft. Significant amount of damage on this IL-10. What I should have done right from the get-go is I should have come to the mining plant. If you don't get the mining plant on this battlefield, the battle is won and lost at this mining plant. If you don't get it initially and then hold it for at least one full cycle, you're going to have a really tough time keeping the edge on the enemy. Sure, the airfield's a nice secondary objective because it's right over the hill and you can get repairs and you can get your ground attackers to respawn there, but you see that I spent a lion's share of the time over at that airfield, and even though we got it, it didn't do us much good when it came to winning the game, because spoiler here, and I'm sure you're already seeing it unfold, this is actually going to be a loss for us. But I wanted to show you what this aircraft is capable of and what you can kind of expect for payouts and stuff, because this turns out to be an absolutely spectacular battle for us, despite the fact that it's a loss, which is unfortunate. I feel like the other players were playing better together, because we had a Spitfire on the enemy team and an P-51H, and those two kind of split their altitude blocks properly and were effectively taking out targets, which is why they were able to flip that airfield so rapidly. Now, being that this is kind of a weird crossover between a fighter and a multi-role, you'll note that it has quite a bit of hit points on it, like 489 hit points. That's a lot of HP. So I can go up here and fight with these bombers and not be so worried about getting chewed up as bad. So this can get up here and intercept these bombers, and I have taken out RB-17s in the past. Now this was awesome because I got an ace, and I got an ace without just killing bot bombers. We kind of talked about this when we went over the BVP-203 trying to get an ace, and in the comments somebody had posted, I think Dimitri again, thank you, said he went after the bomber flights because those also count towards your tally, but here organically getting an ace just from killing air defense aircraft and killing players over this airfield for the first portion of the battle. I would have rather have had a win over having an ace, but all in all, it still was a pleasure to see that pop up on the screen as a nice conciliatory prize here. I have no idea why these aren't making contact, but it probably has something to do with the fact that I'm really close and these guns are spaced out on the wings. All I needed to do was kill this one aircraft and it should have flipped the zone, but Unfortunately, I'm still having issues getting that to make contact. Now what you saw right there is the aircraft started on fire in addition to losing its engine, but because we had fighter on the aircraft, we did that roll and you heard it extinguish that flame right away, which is awesome. We did have another player on our team as well. I didn't realize that till the end actually, that there were 2 players on either team. But let's go back to the hangar and take a look at the stats. A total of 17 targets destroyed, so that's not too bad, and a laundry list of different medals for the airframe. So this turned out to be a pretty good result for us with 18,000 personal scores. So I'm more than pleased with the fact that even though we lost, I knew I did as much as I could, although I probably chose the wrong location to put the weight of this aircraft. I should have put the lion's share of my effort over that mining plant. So this is also a prime example of all the times I've said I don't think the airfield is as important as other sites. This is why. Like, it didn't matter that we had the airfield. We needed to get that mining plant. So we ended up making quite a bit of coin off of this. We got 294,000 credits off of this, and we killed a total of 23 aircraft to include air defense aircraft. So overall, an excellent performance for us. You can see here that the maneuverability, the turn time's 11.7 seconds, and when you compare that to the F2G is actually 11.1 with the setup I have on it right now. And the guns are absolutely identical, being these M3 20mm, and again, the spacing is very similar. But guys, that pretty much wraps it up in my comparison between the 2 airframes. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something. Catch you on the next one.